I want to talk here about something that's called transmigration. And I'm going to warn you straight away that what follows is a little heady, and maybe a lot heady. So please ground yourself and hang on. I've been writing these last days about the 3 eclipses in a row that we are now right in the middle of. And the opportunity for interchange that times like these can bring. Yet words can only take us so far. I think we all know that. Beyond words is the life experience that words can but refer or point at. And we each will have to go deeper and deeper into life to have that experience for ourselves, not just read about it. We can stand as long as we want with our toe in the swimming pool, but sooner or later, and it will happen, we each have to take the plunge into experience. Eclipse times, and also the times of intense solar activity like flares, are moments when change can be more obvious for us to see, and we can feel the urge of it. If we will just time out a bit and let the mind rest long enough to pick up on it, that's what we have to do. The highest Tibetan lamas tell us that inner alignment is most perfect at the time of eclipses, that the chakras or the inner centers all line up. So in a very real way, we each are like that old camera obscura, surrounded by darkness and watching the world projected on our own inner movie screen through a tiny pinhole of light. And that is the view or vantage point of the self, that tiny pinhole of light, and looking through it. And the lens of the self that we peer through is colored. It's nothing more than the sum total of our attachments, of all our likes and dislikes. That's how we identify who we are as me, myself, and I. This is the most common vantage point. Now, I mention this here because at times of change like these, we can, of course, actually change. And the greatest or most common change is one of attitude or view on our part. It's always much easier to change our attitude, our approach to life, than it is to rearrange everything outside ourselves in the world, to go along with our viewpoint. And there are little and big changes of view that are possible. Someday we each will learn to remove those self-attachments, one by one, and just expand into the full light of our natural awareness. Anyway, that's what all the wise persons tell us, and they even tell us how to do it. And here's my point. When we do become more aware, it won't be from the vantage point of ourself. You have to think about that. I found that this point is very hard to grasp, but understanding it, or beginning to even, is really crucial to having inner vision. We've all heard endlessly admonitions from our parents and teachers to not be selfish. Don't be selfish. Stuff like that. This is not simply some moral imperative that we're expected to follow, but it's a real clue as to what will eventually take place with each of us. The state of not being selfish is a clue that we will then no longer be looking from the vantage point of the self. And we need to understand this. It really helps. So it's worth making an effort. Instead, like a spider crawling across the web, we will crawl across life mentally, handhold by handhold, moving from our self-perspective to an even more enlightened view. And this changing view, this new vantage point is profound. It's been called the Transmigration of Consciousness. It's well worth understanding. Transmigration is not so much a transfer of consciousness from one body to the next, as many books suggest, transmigration. Although that's what we study when we invoke terms like reincarnation, metempsychosis, or rebirth. Yet this, like so many things, can also just be misleading. True transmigration is a transfer of view or vantage point, and it can be done right in the here and the now, in this life, as well as in any series of successive lives to come. Our choice. As the Tibetans continue to point out, the life we now live is also just another of the Bardo states. There are only Bardo states until we wake up and become enlightened, and we're in the Bardo now, not just after we die. The entire point of all spiritual knowledge and study and practice, meditation and mind training, is to point out how we can go about letting go of where we are now bound by our attachments to like a patchwork self. This view that we imagine we stand behind and have drawn around ourselves unknowingly, ourself, and instead migrate or expand to a view that's as wide as awareness itself. And it's this awareness that we take with us when we die, not our selfish view. At that point, we cease to identify with the self as exclusively who or what we are, and gradually learn to migrate to another view, another vantage point, one of awareness of our own awareness, that we are the awareness. This is what transmigration is about, and it can take place as much in this as any next life. And sooner or later we just have to learn to do it anyway. And these eclipse times can make this process more obvious and easier to grasp. At times of change, we stand teetering on the brink of changing our view, our vantage point, changing it from assuming that life is as we see it from the point of view of the self, to letting that go and transforming or transmigrating to a view that is as wide as awareness itself.